We're now thick in the middle of the spring 2024 season. As early as now, it's time to see what cool shows the anime industry will have in store for the coming months. And let me tell you, some big time bangers are looming on the horizon, including interesting new anime and sequels to some of the biggest shows from the previous year. So it's time to temporarily leave the spring season behind and look onward to summer 2024.
100年クエスト燃えてきたぞ
Sword of the Demon Hunter kickstarts our list. While the title and the overall feel of the visuals may suggest something we've seen quite a lot in anime, Sword of the Demon Hunter provides quite a unique entry to a summer season that's looking every bit as stacked. The story gets set in motion as the skilled swordsman Jinta gets charged with the not-so-glamorous job of slaying a demon threatening a shrine he'd sworn to protect. Only this time, it's not an ordinary demon we're talking about here. This enemy is one that speaks of the future, prompting Jinta to follow it through time in an adventure that spans generations. One where he must learn to come to terms with his role and his dark nature. The leap through the future premise does give this anime something quite unique, but I think that what makes Sword of the Demon Hunter even more interesting is its source material. While it technically started off as a web novel, the actual published version of the novel is mainly targeted at adults and doesn't read like a typical anime light novel. What this means is that you should expect some mature and more somber, darker themes at play in this one. If you're an anime veteran who thinks they've seen it all, then this one ought to be a breath of fresh air. Next is the magical girl and the evil lieutenant used to be arch enemies.
魔法少女を掛け持ちしています。
The battlefield is quite an eventful place. For some reason, it's also where sparks fly, where Cupid's arrow seems to tend to shoot through leaders of opposing forces. Case in point, evil Lieutenant Mira and magical girl Byakuya Mimori face off in a battle for the fate of the Earth. Sworn enemies met each other on the front lines and ended up falling in love with each other. With their new dynamics in play, one has to wonder how this is going to affect their ongoing conflict and their future allegiances to their factions. This was an anime announcement that came unexpectedly for many manga readers. The source material prematurely ended back in 2015 with the unfortunate passing of the author, and it could be that this was an anime that was already being made before those circumstances. So with that in mind, I also get the nagging feeling Studio Bones may be pushing through with this adaptation now out of a desire to finish what they started, this time packing it with an anime original ending to give the series some much needed closure. Seeing that act of love does give me some sentimental feelings, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the anime team concludes what seems to be a magical version of love afterworld domination. At number 8 is Why Nobody Remembers My World.
なんで誰も本当の世界を覚えていないんだ
Kei Sazane fans are feasting this 2024 thanks to the currently airing God's Game We Play and a sequel to Our Last Crusade or The Rise of a New World slated for summer. However, we shine the spotlight on his third work, one which is also set in a fantasy world actually. This story tells of a grim future where humanity's victory in a war against demons gets overwritten and overturned. Kai, a boy who's seen both outcomes and was somehow erased from history, seeks answers as to what may have caused the phenomenon. In this bad future he finds himself in, he encounters the mysterious girl Rin and resolves to break free from this rewritten world. The road to get there won't be easy, but perhaps inheriting skills and weapons from the previous world's hero can give him the first step needed in order to bear his fangs against the world. As a fan of the author and Our Last Crusade, I'm really looking forward to this anime. The premise is nothing that hasn't been done before, but if there's one thing that Kei Sazane has proved with his previous works, it's that he's got some good world building skills and is quite adept at creating charming characters that audiences do take a liking to. I look forward to seeing what he's cooked up for this new series. For our 7th entry, we have a mouthful of a title, okay? It's The Rookie Middle-Aged Adventurer Was Trained to Death by the Most Powerful Party to Become Invincible. They say that youth is the best time for improving oneself. It's when people are most receptive to learning, and it's when they exude the most potential. The same is true for adventurers looking to grow their strength. Without starting young, the magic power that lets adventurers grow stronger starts running dry. But if there's one thing that Rick Gladiator proves wrong, it's the idea that it's ever too late. Here's a man who became an adventurer over the age of 30 and is at the top of his game, proving naysayers wrong in more ways than one. His secret? Well, it's super elite training courtesy of his mentors. Move over teen prodigies in fantasy anime, the real deal is in the house. Overpowered hero shows are a dime a dozen, and this series is unapologetic about it. It feeds you the tropes that you've come to know and has a lot of fun with them, making it an entertaining blend of action and comedy. It kind of gives some One Punch Man vibes as well when I think about it. Now that should help set your expectations as well. Before we reach the halfway point, Kengan Ashura Season 2 Part 2 is at number 6. Ever since it started airing in 2019, Kengan Ashura has done its job satisfying anime fans' needs for combat sports anime. I see it as a partner in crime of sorts for Baki, and while Kengan Ashura is definitely the lesser known franchise, it's a series that has been low-key getting better as time goes on. The second season, which aired last year, was a very strong entry with some of the best fights with the most unpredictable outcomes. Kengan Ashura's second season is filled to the brim with fights featuring a whole slew of main and side characters duking it out. Kengan Ashura's Season 2's second part is set to come out this summer, and it looks to continue from where the first season left off. 3D fights will remain a big talking point for Kengan Ashura, but I think that Season 2 has certainly improved in that regard as compared to the previous entries. If you're up for more hot-blooded fighting and want to see more of the series' signature martial arts and violence, here's something for you to feast your eyes on. We have a lot more summer anime in store for you, so don't go anywhere. In the meantime, why don't you go hit that like button to help support the channel and help this video do well. Fifth in line, we have Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian.
何あの子、すっごい綺麗。
おい、あれお、九条さんじゃん。
おはよう、クゼくん。おはよう、クゼくん。
Ah, it's rom-com time. Originally scheduled for a spring release, it got delayed to summer. But the wait is worth it though, as this is one of the most entertaining rom-com anthologies I've read in recent memory. It stars the prim and proper Alia and the carefree and lackadaisical Masachika. The two couldn't be any more different, and Alia makes no error in showing her disdain for her lazy seatmate. All the while, she hides her true sentiments in the Russian language. Unfortunately for her, Masachika knows exactly what she's saying. A rather fluffy and wholesome rom-com, Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian is something that will surely give you much needed sweetness in your life. Seeing the two opposites interact and grow closer together in their daily misadventures ought to brighten up your day, and it gets even better when the side characters start shining as they add more complications to the main duo's lives.
時々ボソッとロシア語で出れる隣のアーリャさん。
Before we enter top 3 territory, we take a pit stop with a familiar face. Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest.
100年クエスト燃えてきたぞ。
Anyone seen this coming? When the Fairy Tail manga ended some time back, I did have a nagging feeling that a sequel was in the books. Sure, the author seemed to have moved on to Eden Zero, but Fairy Tail is by far Hiro Mashima's most popular work, and while the series has had a polarizing reception, there's a sizable group of fans wanting more. Thus, here we are with a continuation of Natsu and his friends' adventures, this time taking on the titular 100 Years Quest. Their most challenging battle so far puts them in a mission to seal away the 5 dragon gods. Their journey puts them in the path of the Dark Guild Diabolos, and with a new guild member who may be more than meets the eye, the dragons may be the least of Team Natsu's problems. If Fairy Tail's ending left a void in your heart, then here's 100 Years Quest for you. The manga is pretty much the same adventure filled with fan service and action fare that Fairy Tail had become known for over the years. It looks to reignite the magic felt in the early arcs, when things were a lot simpler and shonen power creep hadn't taken over the series. Now, the good thing about 100 Years Quest is that for a major part, it felt like a fresh reboot of sorts, and if you haven't read or watched the original series, then you can easily settle in and start with this season. To start off our top 3, here's Isekai Suicide Squad.
新しい世界、いい言葉だ。 まさに俺が望んでいるものさ。
If you want more evidence that anime is becoming more and more global, here's one big example. Isekai Suicide Squad is an anime that looks to merge 2 pillars of global pop culture, Western comics and Isekai. Now, this isn't the first time that Western comic books and anime have crossed over, but compared to the Marvel anime from over a decade ago, those featuring Wolverine and the X-Men that looked like seasonal filler,
How dare you?
Isekai Suicide Squad is a major production. Heck, they even brought in the guy responsible for ReZero and Vivi. Given the guy's pedigree with writing compelling stories, it makes me even more excited to see what insanity awaits Harley and the rest of the supervillain crew in this trip to the world of swords and magic. This has all the ingredients for an over-the-top story that's bound to be filled with action, comedy, and a lot of other things we love from both DC Comics and Isekai anime.
スーサイドスクワットが
In second place is Tower of God's second season. Amongst the major webtoon adaptations that made it into anime form back in 2020, I can say that Tower of God is the best one if we take a look at the shows as a whole. Sure, I know it rushed through things like its two other contemporaries, but it didn't come to the complete detriment of the anime, at least not to the same level it did with its brethren that embodied wasted potential. The only gripe against it was that it ended too quickly. Those who longed for a continuation will finally get their wish granted, as Tower of God is set to return this summer. And this time, it looks to cover an arc that many people loved and a definite step up from what the first season covered, which felt a lot like an appetizer. This may very well be the arc that justifies the hype behind Tower of God and shows anime fans worldwide why it's one of the most beloved webtoons out there. Last but not least, we take a look at Oshinoko Season 2.
ルビー、アクア、愛してる。
Just a year ago, Oshinoko rocked the anime world, thanks to an anime team that handled it like the next big thing it set out to be, along with the series' concurrent plots that both showed the cynical and inspiring side of showbiz. Oshinoko had a very strong case for Anime of the Year in 2023. This show captivated anime audiences worldwide, and when Season 1 was nearing its end, Season 2 became a matter of when, not if. We finally got a timetable for it, as the gripping tale of the siblings and their continued foray into the entertainment industry is slated for a summer release. This time, the spotlight shines on the much-renowned Tokyo Blade arc, a stage adaptation of a popular battle manga. It looks to put together some combustible elements thanks to a love triangle that's heating up, as well as some creator adaptation team conflicts we've come to know as long-time anime fans. If you liked Oshinoko in any way during its first season run, then this second season is something that you're not gonna want to miss out on. And there you have it. These are what I think are the top 10 most anticipated anime for the summer season. But go ahead and tell me what you think in the comments section. I do hope I gave you some ideas of shows to pick from a large number of anime the blockbuster summer has got lined up for you. Don't forget to check out the links in the description for other avenues where you can connect with the team. And that's a wrap. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video. Take care.